Okay, good morning, my dear students. I am Dr. Erwin B.
Good morning.
Quendangan, your online learning coordinator or the OLC, and I am the Dean of the College of Arts, Sciences, and Education of the main campus, AMA University, Quezon City. And your course code in there is EDUC 423, and its subject description is SKA Appraisal. So once again, good morning. So what to be expected in this, right now, our focus would be all about the topic skills, knowledge, and attitudes. That is the SKA in teaching. So I just need to give you first an overview if what would be all about our topic, the SKA in teaching. Now, you must know that we are talking all about your preparation on how to provide a lesson plan. And this is very, very important. It's not simply that, you just have the topic in there and then suddenly you can just execute it towards your students. Of course not. There are so many aspects that you need to consider once you work in the writing of your lesson plan. And mind you, that you need to apply in there the use of the Bloom's taxonomy. Or later, I'm going to provide you a certain slide sample if what would be all about a Bloom taxonomy. But prior to that, I just need to give you first an overview if what would be all about the Bloom's taxonomy is just, a brief introduction if what would be all about the Bloom's taxonomy. So it says in there that Bloom's taxonomy was actually developed to provide a common language for teachers to probably discuss and exchange learning and assessment methods. So take note, it's just as simply then that the manner you're going to execute your discussions towards your students, whatever this prepared topic towards your students, you are being applying supposedly in there this so-called Bloom's taxonomy. So therefore, you must know if what is all about the so-called Bloom's taxonomy from your basic introduction down to the evaluation. That is the complete part of this so-called lesson planning preparation. So to continue, well, the goal of the teacher there is to use the Bloom's taxonomy to encourage, the higher order thought in their towards the students by, probably by building up from the lower level of skills, going to the high level skills of these students. Okay, so basically, as you can see in there, wait, Alec Buga is joining. You have in there this so-called diagram or these three different domains. As you can see in there, developed in a triangular form. Okay, this is actually the framework needed in developing in there your lesson plans soon. No, that you need to consider these three different domains. One is all about the attitude. Second is all about the knowledge. And third is all about the skills. Neslin is joining. So as what I'm telling you guys, now this is very, very important because in providing a lesson plan, it's not that you are just be focusing on the attitude in probably discussing a topic, or probably that you are just be focusing on the knowledge in discussing a topic, or probably that you are just be focusing on the skills in, in this execution of topic. But of course not. The point there is how would you then discuss a topic in a way that these three domains are being executed, or meaning it would be a part of your discussion. So a part of the execution of the topic that you have provided there. No? So these are the three different domains that are being triangulated every time you are going to execute a topic. Okay? This is what I'm talking all about. Samples of the Bloom's taxonomy. Isn't it that every time you prepare there a topic, right? You need to provide your objectives. Is it right? That you need to provide in there your objectives. So just be a clarification, no? Just be a clarification on how to, why do we use this so-called Bloom's taxonomy in teaching? So it says in there that you are required to provide an objective or objectives. We are referring to the learning goals of these students, and these are very, very important to establish in in a pedagogical interchange, so that these teachers and students are really understanding each other. So that's one. And then another reason why we need to use this Bloom's taxonomy is to organize your objectives, which help to to clarify your objectives from you being a teacher towards your students. And then next is for you to have an organized setup of objectives to help you, the teachers, one, plan and deliver appropriate instruction. That is one reason why you need to consider the application of this, what we call, or the use of this, what we call Bloom's taxonomy. And then another reason in there is to design appropriate or valid assessment tasks as part of your evaluation, and of course, if what would be the appropriate strategies that you need to apply there. And then another is you need to ensure that your instruction and assessment are totally aligned to whatever your objectives are. So therefore, you need to consider if what would be the appropriate terminologies that you need to use in there. So these are now the samples, as you can see the screen. These are now the sample verbs that you could probably apply. But take note, it depends on the manner on how would you then execute your discussion. Probably is it just be simply more on the remembering, or probably it is more on the understanding, or is it be more of the applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. So therefore, you as a teacher must know always if how would you then execute a topic, so that once you develop in there your objectives, it would be totally aligned to whatever the topic is as the way you want to execute towards your students. Is that clear? Is it clear?
Yes,
Oh,
sir.
okay,
Yes.
very good, very good. So let's continue. So the focus in there would be all about as part of the so-called teacher learning environment or development would be all about the cognitive process. When we say cognitive, once again, we are talking about the knowledge on how would you then execute your learnings. Execute these topics as part of the learnings of your students. So we're talking about knowledge. And the second one in there is the skill. When we say skill, it would be the application or the so-called psychomotor part towards students. Okay, and then the third one is the personal construction. When we say personal construction, it would be all about the attitude, would be the behavior that once you execute such topic, how would you then consider still the value or the values or the attitudes in towards these students. So these three domains are very, very important. They are all interrelated. They are all interconnected, meaning these three domains of Bloom's taxonomy are always be part once you write in there your lesson plans. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay, very
Yes.
good, very good. So let's continue. No, we need to analyze each domain there. No, if what is all about cognitive, if what would be all about the skill, and then if what would be all about the so-called personal construction or so-called the attitude as the domains of Bloom's taxonomy. So you have in there, first we talk about the cognitive process. So it says in here that this approach views teaching as a complex cognitive activity and focuses on the nature of belief and thinking and how this influences their teaching and learning. So that is really true because it depicts about, the knowledge that you want to let students be understood once or grasped once you are you started discussing their a topic. Okay, so this would be the the levels of the cognitive learning that as you can see in there, no, this diagram, it starts from the knowledge down to evaluation. Okay, you have here the knowledge, the comprehension, the application, analysis, and evaluation. So meaning that once you develop in there your lesson plans, if you will be dealing about knowledge, you must just know specifically if what would be the appropriate verbs to be used in developing in there your objective. Same thing with the comprehension. If you are into the comprehension level, so it is that you must apply appropriately if what would be the right verbs to be applied there as part of the comprehension. Same thing with that of the application, to its analysis, and to its evaluation. Okay, is that clear?
Yes.
Okay. Let's continue. When we talk of knowledge, of course, we are talking to simply remembering, to remember things, or probably recalling, or the so-called recognition of specific facts, or probably terminology, or probably criteria, or principles, or whatever, or probably theories, in which the learner needs simply to select the correct material from the memory. So probably the sample verbs to be used in there, since you are more into memorizing, would be you are memorizing probably the list, or list down, whatever, or probably you name the countries, something like that, or you need to define something, or you need to record something, or to recall something. It's just an example of what we call memorizing. Okay, so just that is just the very basic level of the cognitive learning. So that is knowledge. And then second in there is the so-called comprehension. So when we talk of the comprehension, this is simply all about the understanding of demonstrated by means of probably you are doing the paraphrasing, you are doing the summarizing, you are doing the interpreting, or probably the interfering simple conclusions. So we are expecting that learner must put simple knowledge in a different form. So meaning the learning on this part of this level, comprehension, is leverage. It is increased from the simple memory. Now this time you need to comprehend. Okay, from the basic knowledge, now you need to comprehend. So example in there probably that you need to express in the everyday language, that you need to discuss implications of ideas, or probably that you need to translate among the three languages, whatever the words, the math, or the pictures. It's just an example of this. Now, the appropriate verbs to be applied once your objective in there is more of the comprehension is probably you need to use the word or the terms report, or probably locate, or probably restate, or probably discuss, or probably describe, or explain, or express. So these are just examples of the appropriate verbs to be used once you want to consider the second level of the cognitive learning, and that is comprehension. Moving on, moving there, now you have in there the next level, the application. And what is all about application? This one, application. When we say application, no, using general knowledge in new, or probably specific and concrete situations. So in here, it is expected that the situation is unique or different, and the problems are complex and a bit confusing, in which you need to require choosing among solutions. So if that would be the case, you need to consider the use of verbs like show, or apply, or the interpret, or decide, or respond to, or to illustrate, or to demonstrate, or dramatize, or even the use of the word use itself. So these are the appropriate verbs to be applied or used once you are dealing on this third level of cognitive learning, and that is application. Guys, are you following? Hey, are you
Sí.
following? Very good. Next, we have in there analysis. Very good. Next in there is analysis. We have the fourth level of cognitive learning. And then when we say analysis, it's all about the breaking down of information into its separate parts. So probably the explicating the relationship between parts and the overall organizational structure. So we do expect in this level that learners may divide complex whole into parts in order to better understand it. So in that case, you probably use as part of your objective, you probably use the terms like solve or relate or the diagram or appraise or probably analyze, examine, and a lot more. No, whatever the related terminology is applicable in this level, the analysis. So take note that the verbs there are very, very important. That it should align to the level of learning that you want to consider there. Okay. And then another in there is evaluation. So this would be the last level of the cognitive learning. So this would be all about the judging information or knowledge against some appropriate criteria, either be the internal to the material or an external standard. So this time, since you are in the a bit complex level of cognitive learning, we'd expect the critical thinking of these students. So therefore, if that would be the case, you need to consider the use of these verbs like you need to value, or you need to the term revise, or judge, or assess, or compare, or select, or evaluate, or even the use of the term measure. So the use of these terminologies, or I mean the use of these verbs may vary depending on the level of learning you want to consider. So did you get it or did you understand it? Okay, very good. Next. Next level in there would be the as personal construction and the reflective practice. So it's all about your affective domain. Okay. So it says in here that in this approach, you need to consider the self-awareness and teacher's personal interpretation is used. Then reflection is viewed as a process of critical examination of experiences, a process that can lead to better understanding of one's teaching practices and routines. And this would be its diagram. That is, it starts from the receiving, going to the responding, to valuing, to organizing, and internalizing. So when we say, come again, when we say affective, we are talking of the attitude. No? When we say affective, no? This domain includes the manner in which we deal with things emotionally, or such probably the use of your feelings, the use of your values, the use of your appreciation, your enthusiasm, your motivation, or generally speaking, it's all about your attitude. So as part in developing in there your lesson plan, see to it that affective domain should still be part of it. So how would you then inject the affective domain in developing in there your objectives? So that's what I told you, that in developing in there your objectives of your topic, no, the topic that you're supposed to discuss, these three domains of Bloom's taxonomy are always be part of it. You have in there, as what I mentioned, the cognitive or the knowledge, the skill or the psychomotor, and the personal construction, or this is all about your attitude, or in short, the affective domain. Now, let's talk about the first level, receiving. So as simple as that, it's all about the awareness, all about your willingness to hear, or probably the selected attention. So the emphasis in there is all about to listen to others with respect. So when we say listen, is a part of remembering the name of newly probably introduced people. So what would be the keywords that you're supposed to use as part of this first level? You need to probably use ask, or you choose, or describe, or follow, or give, or hold, and a lot more. Any, aligned the terminology or verb that would be appropriate to this first level of affective learning, and that is receiving. Next is the responding. Okay? When we talk of responding, so we are expecting for this active participation on the part of the learners. We are expecting you as learners to be part and parcel of the discussion. So how would you then respond to the discussions? So as what I'm telling you guys, that there must be the so-called active engagement or involvement of these students. In that ways, no, since while we are expecting the so-called participations of students as part of the discussion. So you as a teacher, as part of the development of your objective, you probably use the verbs like answer, or assist, or aid, or comply, or conform, or discuss, and a lot more. No? Whatever these related terms or verbs appropriate to this level, responding. Next in there is valuing. So when we talk of the valuing, no, we are referring to the worth or the value of a person attached to a particular object, or probably the phenomenon, or probably the behavior. So one example in there is probably demonstrates a belief in the democratic process. So if that would be the case, we need to consider these terminologies like, or the verbs like the complete, the term complete, the term demonstrate, the term differentiate or explain, and a lot more. So whatever this appropriate terminology that suit the this specific level, it's all about valuing. Then the fourth one is organizing. So what is all about organizing? So you are going to organize values into priorities by contrasting probably the different values and the resolving conflicts between them, or even the creating of a unique value system. So that is just a part of it. Or 10 minutes remaining. Okay, so if that would be the case, the appropriate verbs that you have to use would be adhere, or alter, or arrange, something like that. And the last one is internalizing. When we talk of internalizing, we're referring to the value system that controls the behavior. So since we talk of the behavior, one example in there is showing self-reliance when working independently towards students. So this is very, very important. So if that would be the case, you need to probably let students do, something in the form, that begins with these words like act, or display, or influence, or probably listens, or, modify. So these are just examples of these words appropriate to this internalizing. Now next, example of development of an attitude to a new teaching technique. So you have the presentation of a new teaching technique down to internalizing, no, that integrates the value attached to the new teaching technique to his or own system of, of these students. Okay, next, what about the skill? This approach, in this approach of teaching can be broken down into discrete skills that can be mastered one at a time. So the skills targeted with this approach are those identified with a model of affective learning. So we are just be focusing into 4, and these are the exposure, acquisition, application, and automatic use. So if you want to consider as part of your objective is the exposure, it's all about the ability to use your sensory cues to guide motor activity. Expose. This ranges from your sensory stimulation through cue selection through to translation. So it's just an example, no? And then when we talk of acquisition, it's all about the readiness to act. How would you then let students be ready as part of your discussion? And then when we talk of application, it would be all about your adaptation to, the skills, or these skills must be well developed, and then the individual can modify movements or the movement patterns to fit special requirements. So be careful about the application. See to it that they are all properly be applied. And then last one is the automatic use. It would be the implementation. So you are going to create new movement patterns to fit a particular situation, a specific problem. So the learning outcomes emphasize creativity based upon highly developed skills. So it's all about the implementation. When we talk of the skill learning, automatically the implementation or the psychomotor field. So to continue, no, we have in there, no, still a part of the teachings. Well, this is just be a reminder. I know for a fact that everyone is totally aware if what will be what would be all about these things, but I still need to mention it as part still of your teaching skills. It says in there that the teaching is the art of blending knowledge, art, science, and creativity. So this constitutes a number of verbal and non-verbal acts. Also, probably you used to observe this to your teachers that every time they discuss in there, it is being accompanied, no, by these movements. Aside from talking, there would still be these nonverbal actions. Next is the set of related behaviors or teaching acts aiming at specific objectives and performed with an intention to facilitate pupils' learning can be called a teaching skill. See, so in order then that these students really understood whatever the topic you're supposed to discuss to them, ensure that they did understand it. Otherwise, if they fail to understand your discussion, there would be a problem with you as a teacher. No? So it's a part of your skill still, no, on how to discuss a topic that these students may probably understand everything. Next. A professional teacher should identify what all are the skills needed and should practice to master those skills. Exactly. Do not just be focusing to one skill. In short, be a dynamic teacher, be a diverse teacher. No? The next, professionals will always have some skills which are present in them and which they have acquired through special training practice. So, meaning that you always acknowledge whatever, whatever skills that you probably observe from your students, because it would be of great help to improve more the talents or the way on the part of the students, the way on how to learn if what would be your topic is all about. Then still, we need to consider the following, no? That you must know how to write instructional objectives. So we're talking all of these so-called objectives in which you need to apply the so-called Bloom's taxonomy. And then how would you then introduce your lesson? See to it that you must also be fluent in the art of questioning. And then how would you then develop your questions? So must be professionally developed. The next is how would you then explain your topic? If you need to give examples, see to it these are all clear. So illustrating with examples. And stimulus with the variation, it's all about your reaction to whatever the gestures of your students. Next, you must know, no, there must be the so-called prerequisite in the use of the so-called verbal and nonverbal cues. The next is how would you then enforce the learnings of these students, especially then that you as a teacher must get the attention of your students. So how would you then enforce the learnings in a way then that these students must all be attentive? Then there must be the so-called increased pupil participation. So how would you do it? So again, it would be depending on your motivation, on how would you then get the attention of your students. Then of course, there must be something to be written on your board. Then next is achieving closure. How would you then end your discussion in a way that these students are really learn something from your discussion? And then recognizing attending behavior. Of course, when we say recognizing attending behavior, probably then that how would you then appreciate the participation of your students. So this is very, very important that you as a teacher not just be in front of your students doing the discussion of a topic. Should not be. You must still apply the appropriate classroom management. Next, although all skills are important and need practice according to the convenience of a student teacher. So we're talking of the student teacher. So as a beginner, no, you must just be focusing to one specific mastery. Then from there, you may consider gradually consider the others. So that is the point in there. No, do not start immediately to various courses. Rather, you must focus first to a specific specific course. Like you, good enough that you are what do you call this? You have your specializations in there. That some of you are into math, English, or computer education. Okay. Next, skill on the reinforcement. So the talent to appreciate the learner as they need social approval for their behavior. Appreciation for correct answer will make them more eager to respond with correct answer. And then it will help them to increase their participation. This is very, very important. That there must be, there must be this strong encouragement on your part to let students be actively involved in your discussion. So how would you then do that? So, well, again, it would be on the skill of the teacher to perform it. So this is very, very important, that ensure there must be this high engagement of your students in the learning. Next. So as simple as this, once there would be this pupil's response, and then you are there as a teacher to reinforce their engagement or participation, there would be this positive behavior modification and increase interactive classroom engagement. But if there would be no participation, if there would be no reinforcement, there would be no encouragement on your part as a teacher, well, the discussion would be that dull, okay? The passive classroom. So skills of reinforcement still, both verbal and nonverbal cues can be used. And then, okay, this is very, very important, the use of the terms like excellent. So once you call the student and then you probably advise him to recite or to talk on something, and then there must always be these verbal cues that are necessary as part of your encouragement, like, that is excellent, or carry on, or go ahead, or well, or done, or good, and a lot more. It depends on how would you then encourage the participation of all. Then, of course, this is very, very important. You need to smile all the time. You must have this friendly look towards your students. And then use the extraverbal cues like